I just found out that Phantasy Star Online 2 and Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis are coming to the PlayStation on August 31st. Both games are free to play. The wiki for the first game, Phantasy Star Online 2, states the game is a free to play online action role playing game in the Phantasy Star series. Developed and published by Sega, it was created as a successor to Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Universe. Phantasy Star Online 2 features gameplay elements and aesthetics reminiscent of previous Phantasy Star games while incorporating a few unique twists on the formula. The first version was released for Windows in Japan in July 2012. Phantasy Star is a series of console role-playing video games and other supporting media created by Sega. The series debuted in 1987 on Master System as Phantasy Star and continued into the present day for Phantasy Star Online 2, another extension of the Phantasy Star Online sub-series. Later, Phantasy Star Online was developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega in 2000 for the Dreamcast. It was the first online RPG for game consoles. Players adventure with up to 3 other players over the internet to complete quests, select items, and fight enemies in real-time action RPG combat. From everything I read, this game has had a long history of releases. There was a PlayStation Vita version that was later shut down. There was a PlayStation 4 version back in 2016. There was even a spin-off Phantasy Star Online 2 ES for mobile devices in 2014. In 2018, there was a cloud version for the Nintendo Switch and for PC. All of that was apparently only in Asia. It was announced that the game would release outside of Asia for the first time on Xbox One and Windows in early 2020 at EA 2019. The second game, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, was released on June 9, 2021. It was released for Xbox One and Xbox Series XS worldwide, with a PlayStation 4 version releasing in August 31st of 2022. Phantasy Star Online New Genesis is significantly different in gameplay, graphics, and content. I am excited about the release of these games because it says that the gameplay in Phantasy Star Online 2 is mostly action-oriented, features a large and diverse selection of weapon types and playstyles for the player to choose from. In combat, players engage enemies in real time with various attacks. Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis focuses on an open world field rather than an actual dungeon as with the original. Reading online, there are a lot of comments that say if you like Dungeons and Dragons or Final Fantasy, you will like this. I love both of these types of games, and I am really looking forward to this game with a science fiction space theme to boot. It looks like I missed out on the rich history, but I am looking forward to its release on PlayStation. As a side note, I was wondering why the word fantasy was spelled with a PH. I was wondering if there was an actual word fantasy with a PH. I did some research online and found out that there is an actual word fantasy with a PH. The real word with a PH is from the psychology world, where the PH fantasy is to describe a person who's having an unconscious thought and is functioning based on that. The word with an F, regular fantasy, is when you consciously want something to happen or would like something to happen. Diving deeper, wondering if this had anything to do with why they spelled it with a PH. There's actually a gaming and writing tropes where words are spelled differently, like fantasy with a PH, to give the impression of something being fancier or of some sort of other world or other fantasy environment. No pun intended, fantasy, but the PH or other misspellings are kind of used just to give the title a kind of interesting look. So we don't know for sure, at least I don't know for sure, if Sega and the original team decided on that word with a PH for one or the other reason. But anyways, that's a little piece of trivia that I dug up. So, what about you? Are you looking forward to Phantasy Star Online 2 and Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis on the PlayStation coming on August 31st? Have you already played Phantasy Star Online 2 or Genesis, New Genesis rather, on PC or Xbox? Have you played any of the original games of the series? I would love to know. Based on everything I've seen and heard so far, it seems to me like it's going to be an awesome game, and I look forward to playing it. For more content like this, please like and subscribe. Hope you all are having a good one. Cheers.
A vast world that shines brightly with a curious radiance and new encounters. A never-ending adventure full of mystery begins here and now. PSO2